On today's show, the LA Clippers came close to making it 6 wins in a row against the Oklahoma City Thunder, but fumbled it late and had a lot of people talking about all the different reasons why the Clippers could not come up with the win after leading by double digits. What went so wrong down the stretch of a close game? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the Clippers for 5 years on my own LA-centric YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, LA Sports-centric, and Locked On Clippers for 3 years right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube, and you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. Also, Locked On Clippers has a newsletter, a daily newsletter written by yours truly. You got to go to lockedondaily.com to sign up for that. That's lockedondaily.com. And this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how we fumbled this one late against the Oklahoma City Thunder without Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. It was there for the taking. We should have won it, in my opinion, and those are the most frustrating games when you know that you should have won. And despite the Thunder's record without Chet, without J-Dub, we got everybody healthy. I thought we should have gotten this win, and the game was right there. There's been a lot of talk about the coaching convo. Ty Lue returned for this game, and we lost after having a 5-game winning streak with Brian Shaw. Now, of course, the Clippers have still won 8 out of their last 10 games. So we are still playing really, it's not the end of the world by any means, but every game counts at this stage of the season. We all know. Then, of course, every episode after a game, there will be a segment dedicated to Kawhi Watch. So let's talk about how we fumbled this one late. I mean, I think it really begins with how we fumbled it early to some degree. There was a stretch in the game that some people are saying in the second quarter that we lost the game right there. I don't particularly agree with that because we still were up by 2 with 2.5 minutes left after Kawhi Leonard made a mid-range jumper after the pump fake where he had SGA fly by. It was beautiful. I believe that put us up 99-97. But to say that the reason we lost was the second quarter, I don't agree with, but it was important. Now, we had a pretty solid first quarter in terms of matchups. Caruso was guarding Kawhi. Lou Dort. Sorry, I can't say that. Lou Dort. He's just so dirty. He plays very dirty. I'm sorry. He's a very good defender, though. He's a fantastic defender. He's a very good role player in the NBA. But he's so dirty. Lou Dort on James Harden. Isaiah Hartenstein, former Clipper Isaiah Hartenstein on Ivica Zubac. SGA on Chris Dunn and Cason Wallace on Norman Powell. They had Isaiah Hartenstein and Jalen Williams from Arkansas in drop coverage and pick and rolls. We had Dunn on SGA, Kawhi on Dort, Zoo on Isaiah, Harden on Cason Wallace, Norman Powell on Caruso, and of course, Zoo in drop, but at times was coming up to the level of the screen with SGA's side pick and roll so he wouldn't just walk into a mid-range. But Zoo was cooking Isaiah Hartenstein to start the game. Cooking him in the low post, getting the ball in the paint. He couldn't really guard him without fouling. And our game plan defensively, and I'm only mentioning this because this is how we started playing so well. Our defensive game plan was, let's make other guys beat us. We know that Chet Holmgren's out. We know that Jalen Williams is out. Let's leave Alex Caruso open. Let's leave Jalen Williams from Arkansas open. And we did that, and Caruso was pretty broke. And let's see what he shot. But he made a huge three in the fourth quarter. But he was 2 for 7 from 3 in the game. 2 for 7 from 3. So we did it. I mean, we're going to live with that. Kawhi, though, got going right away in this game, which I love to see. And it was, I thought, the best balance we've had so far in any quarter of a little bit of Norm off the ball, trying to get him going, a little bit of James Harden pick and roll, a little bit of dump it down to Zoo, and Kawhi still got his 7 points. Hit a mid-range over Lou Dort where he made him look literally small. He made him look like a little guy with the way he just knocked him over. And he had a 3-ball, had some free throws. So really solid first quarter. Great balance between the big four. And I thought that Derrick Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn did a fantastic job on SGA, and we still, as a team, made other guys beat us. And Ben Simmons came in and had 2 beautiful layups. So after the first quarter, we were up by 10 points, 34-24. We were playing great. I mean, everything was going well. And then in the second quarter, they went on a 33-17 run, and I tweeted about this in the moment. In the non-SGA minutes, that's where we really needed to push the lead up and try to get it to 15-plus points. And we failed to do that and actually let them get back in the game. And they went on a 15-0 run. And I have to say, you could also say these were the non-Zoo Harden minutes. So we didn't have either of them in the game. And Norman Powell and Kawhi Leonard struggled to initiate the offense. I thought Ben Simmons, he had that run where he made some amazing layups with both hands in transition, had that nice little Euro step lay that with a lot of arc on that thing. Beautiful touch. But at the same time, we know what happens when we go to that small ball lineup with Zoo out of the game. What happens is it becomes switch everything. The best pick and roll threat we have on the roll is Ben Simmons, and Norman Powell and Kawhi Leonard aren't the best playmakers and decision makers. So our offense can become really slow, really stagnant, and we're not making the right reads. And I have to say, and again, I guess my tweets, because when I'm at the game, it's a little harder to, remember everything. It all feels like kind of a blur when you're so into it as opposed to when you're watching it on TV. So sometimes my tweets can be a guide of how I was feeling in the moment. And I was saying that Kawhi had tunnel vision, I tweeted at one point, because it just seems like he misses guys open. He doesn't see it, or he doesn't release the ball quickly enough at times. And I think that's what makes him, not the best initiator in terms of like pick and rolls and bringing the ball up. I personally don't think Kawhi Leonard should be bringing the ball up at all. I think now that we have Bogey, we'll usually have one of he or Harden in the game, and they should bring it up on a half-court slow possession. I'm not talking transition. But they were just, very careless with their passes. They were not sharp with it. The ball wasn't moving. And obviously the defense can switch everything. So we weren't really getting good shots. And on top of that, we don't have the rim protection with Zoo out of the game. So without Zoo and Harden, we really blew it. Even without Chet Holmgren, SGA, and Jalen Williams in a game, they went on a 15-0 run. And that was a big missed opportunity there. We still had Kawhi Leonard hit 2 mid-ranges coming off screens, but Norm, he looked more aggressive in terms of getting downhill, but he could not hit a jumper. And one thing that I thought was a terrible precedent going into halftime and set a terrible tone, and I think was one of the biggest reasons we lost this game, 6 points of second chance to end that first half, late in that second quarter, where it was either Zubac's not boxing out on a long miss or just our guys being slow to react. But there were a couple times, and I've praised Zoo more than probably anybody on this podcast the last couple of weeks, but there were times where on a long miss when he was switched out to like a smaller guy or like a Jalen Williams on Arkansas that he was guarding, he just didn't put a body on them. He just kind of instinctively went towards the basket to anticipate the rebound there, but it was a long miss, and it was very frustrating because it seemed like, and as great teams so often do, they make you pay when you give them opportunities to score on second and third chances on possessions. So that, to me, was a big reason we lost. And in the second quarter, we got outscored 33-17. 33-17. So we could not score for the life of us. And the non-Zoo and Harden minutes, I guess, were worse than the non-SGA minutes. Now, that poses a question. Can we take Zoo and... Because we ideally want to keep 2 of the big 4 in at all times. Do we want to take, and by the way, it was compounded by the fact that Bogey, the whole every time Bogey has a good game, we win, and every time he has a bad game, we lose thing is continuing, because in this game, he just could not hit a shot, and it was in that stretch as well. It was part of why we weren't making shots. He only had 2 points. He had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Didn't turn the ball over at all, but he was 1 for 6 from the field and 0 for 3 from deep. In 21 minutes, we just did not get the spark from Bogey that we've gotten recently. And as I've said, he seems to be that X factor now. And I started thinking that when he was missing shots in the beginning, I'm like, uh-oh. if my little theory continues, it's not even a theory, it's just more so an observation of how things have gone so far. But that stretch was pretty rough. Pretty rough. But let's see. First half, Kawhi Leonard had 11 points. He was our only scorer in double figures. SGA had 17, and we held him to 5 for 16 shooting. So you knew there was going to be a lot of SGA shot attempts. But the third quarter, we were struggling to guard without fouling. And the refs, I mean, I don't want to make it too much about the refs at all because I'm not that kind of fan. But there were some horrific calls in this game. Absolutely horrific. I just think they're a little bit inconsistent with how much they let OKC's amazing defenders like Caruso and Lou Dort put hands on guys. I mean, Chris Dunn was getting away with a little bit with SGA as well, but I just feel it's inconsistent because SGA flails and Harden, the guys that flail get rewarded, and I just don't like that because you could call that on a lot of guys because you have to put, to some degree, you still have to put hands on somebody in the NBA, face-up guys to keep them in front. It's very hard to just slide your feet in front of these dudes. But some very questionable decisions were made in that fourth quarter. I'll talk about them more in the next segment. But, there was 1 second where I was shocked when we had Amir Coffey not come out of the game. Derrick Jones Jr. did after he had just blocked SGA. And then we burned our last timeout when they missed a foul that should have been called on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander against Ivica Zubac down low when it was a 1-point game. And we burned our last timeout because we got a challenge wrong earlier. So, I mean, it was a nail-biter game down the stretch. That's why my point being that the second quarter stretch I don't think ruined the game. It was bad, but we still were right there, up by 2, 99-97. But there were some big turnovers by James Harden, who, by the way, had a real injury scare in that third quarter. And he said he had some pain in the middle of his foot after the game. I don't know what that's going to mean for us going forward. That's probably something I'll touch on at the end. But 2 huge turnovers. One of them was on that inbounds where he missed Norman Powell after Ty Lue burned his last timeout, which was a horrific decision. Horrific. And I'm not just saying that in hindsight. I thought about it then. I was like, what are we doing? It's going to come down to the last second. But Harden turned the ball over, did not help. Caruso made a 3 when Harden lost sight of his man on that breakdown, which was right before the second turnover. That was what gave them the 100-99 lead. Lawler's Law won on this one. But Kawhi and Norm each had a chance to win the game. Norman Powell just could not hit an open 3. It just felt like every single time he had a chance to make a momentum 3, he did not hit it, which is just unfortunate. And then Kawhi kind of got locked up by Caruso on that last possession. I had a good angle of it. Caruso fully cut him off with his arm bar. They didn't call anything. If he had flailed and thrown it up like SGA did in the game at times, would he have gotten the call? I don't know. I just think that's the part where it's inconsistent. But hey, fair play to them. They won without J-Dub and Chet, and SGA had a horrible shooting game. But we had chances to win. We turned the ball over late. We didn't get a bucket late. We did not close out certain possessions with rebounds. It's very fine margins against a team like that. Very fine margins. So to me, and some questionable coaching decisions. So little things. We've had some problems closing games. We really have. And Kawhi did make a game winner against Sacramento, but to me, he's always had some issues closing games with us. But coming up, going to talk a little bit more about the coaching decisions and how controversial they were, because not a good look for Ty Lue, given that he came back, and that happened. I got to tell you a little something about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, Clippers losing this one by a score of 103 to 101 at Intuit Dome. Really unfortunate. We had won 8 out of our last 9 heading into the game. Won 5 straight, and we couldn't get the job done when it was Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams out against us. It just really is frustrating when we see this OKC team, given that we literally built it for them. SGA. Of course, that's an exaggeration because they still made a bunch of great moves around them. But SGA and Jalen Williams, we handed them those guys. I mean, Jalen Williams was the pick. They had to draft him still. They had to still make that pick. So it's not a guarantee that had we kept that pick, we would have gotten J-Dub. But the SGA thing starts and ends with SGA, who we did a great job on. I mean, we held him to 7 for 29 shooting. I mean, that's insane. He was 11 for 11 from the free throw line, 1 for 7 from 3, finished with 26 points, 3 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and just 1 turnover for the former Clipper. But we did a great job. The fact that we did not win a game where we held him to that kind of shooting game, I don't know if it says more about the Thunder being great or just us not being able to capitalize on our opportunities. The second half, we outscored the Thunder by 6 points. We outscored them in each quarter. Third quarter, we outscored them 26-24, and fourth quarter, 24-26. And this was a defensive slugfest, like a real battle between the two of the best defenses in basketball. Of course, they're number one. But we outscored them 50-46 in the second half, and I'll take that 46, holding them to under 50. I think, weirdly, despite the fact that our offense has been the standout so far, or should I say the last 10 games or so, it was the offense that I felt was a little bit lacking in this game, which was natural given who we were playing against. But James Harden getting like dead legged or whatever happened to him with Lou Dort, that really hurt us. And I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried about Lou Dort potentially has injured another one of our players in March right before a postseason like he did in 2023. And I don't think it was intentional. I'm not implying that it was intentional, but it's always he's connected with these things. It's very, very, very frustrating and makes me scared. And then there's the conversation of why was Harden in the game? Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to bother trying to hypothesize what conversations were being had, between Ty Lue and the coaching staff and the Jason Powell and Harden about closing this game. James Harden's the type of guy, as we know, he wants to play. And it's a big game against OKC on NBA TV. He's trying to go out there and win the game. He's got the adrenaline. But he was kind of useless down the stretch of the game, and he made some huge mistakes. 17 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 block, 6 turnovers for James on 4 for 14 shooting. And funny, I talk about him getting beat backdoor or losing sight of his man, I should say, on the Caruso 3. Before that, I actually think James had a really solid defensive game. He had some blocks, or maybe was it 1 block? Yeah, 1 block, but he was active. He was taking some pride defensively one-on-one. Of course, they were attacking him in pick and roll, and he can't guard SGA, but who can guard SGA one-on-one? He was still trying, and I saw that effort from him. So I'm not saying he even had a bad defensive game. I actually think he had a rough offensive game with the 6 turnovers and being 4 for 14 from the field and 2 for 6 from 3. He was 7 for 8 from the foul line, but that was part of the reason why we didn't win is James Harden just didn't. He's entitled to have a bad game. You know what I'm saying? He has been amazing in the month of March. And then Norman Powell, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 turnovers, but 9 points on 4 for 12 shooting and 1 for 6 from 3 in 31 minutes. And I saw a lot of people talking about Norman Powell shouldn't close and Bogey should have been in, but look, Bogey wasn't playing any better, and I adamantly believe that we need the best version of Norman Powell to be the best version of us as a team. And I kept saying over and over again that these last 12 games, now 11, are going to be about getting Norman Powell back into form and getting his best version with Kawhi, Zoo, and Harden's best version all at once. And I liked what we looked like in the first quarter. But Norm just didn't make shots. There's nothing more to say. So there's nothing more to say about that. Like, Norm should have made shots. And he got beat backdoor several times. Even Kawhi got beat backdoor several times with Isaiah Hartenstein in the high post. There's a lot of cutting going on for the Thunder, and we have to be better about that. Now, so yeah, if you combine Harden and Norm, they were 8 for 26. So that's not a great recipe. Kawhi Leonard was 10 for 20 and 2 for 4 from 3. 3 or 4 from the foul line, 25 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, and just 2 turnovers. He was awesome, but I'll talk more about Kawhi later. I also want to talk about the coaching thing. And just to finish off, 15 and 11 for Zoo on 4 for 10 shooting, 7 for 8 from the foul line. So not a very good shooting game for Zoo standards. He still had a double-double, which he sleepwalks into now. 2 blocks for him. The turnover count, we turned the ball over 14 times. They turned the ball over only 9 times, and that's part of the reason they won. Winning road games, a lot of times it's taking care of the ball. But there were some really controversial coaching decisions made. Closing with Norm, we've seen the Brian Shaw system, you can say, been more of a bogey friendly, playing bogey with Zoo, starting bogey in the beginning of the third quarter. Because what ends up happening sometimes is bogey's minutes don't coincide with Zoo's because Zoo's going to the bench when bogey's checking in the game. But there was something that Brian Shaw was doing, or the coaching staff was doing without Ty Lue, where we were playing bogey to start second halves. However, I think a lot of that is Norman Powell's minutes restriction. You know what I'm saying? I think the Clippers coaching staff and the medical staff, they want to get Norman Powell up to scratch. Now, should we play bogey more with Zoo? Absolutely. Absolutely we should. There's data behind that. But, the whole coaching staff thing, I think it's a ridiculous conversation personally. I know people are going to really disagree with me on that and be like, look, the proof was in the pudding. We won 5 games in a row with Brian Shaw, and the second Ty Lue comes back, we lose. Well, we weren't playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have been the best team in the NBA this entire season, won. And, it was at Atlanta, we didn't have, it was 4 games with Shaw. You're telling me we couldn't beat the Hawks, the Charlotte Hornets, and the shorthanded Memphis Grizzlies without Ty Lue? The Cavs win is okay, that was really great. But I'm not trying to say just because I'm disagreeing with the whole Shaw and Ty Lue conversation, because, it always is whatever ends up fitting the narrative. Jeff Van Gundy hasn't been here, but we didn't see anybody saying, oh, our offense looks really good because Jeff Van Gundy's not been there. Because he's a defensive-minded guy. When you remove Jeff Van Gundy, our offense is better. No, it's because Kawhi and Bogey were knocking down shots and Kawhi's starting to look like himself again. That's why. It's just, again, I always want to emphasize this, is that there's so many people making basketball decisions on NBA teams in terms of coaching staffs and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it falls down to the players. Ty Lue is not the reason why Norman Powell is not making open threes. Ty Lue is not the reason why James Harden lost sight of his man and Alex Caruso ends up getting an open 3. He's not the reason why Kawhi Leonard has struggled to close games since he's become a Clipper. I personally don't believe so. Now, did he mess up last night? Absolutely. How could you burn your last time out under like that? That was insane. Terrible decision. What's up with Nico Batum's minute situation? Why is he going from no minutes beginning of the season? Then all of a sudden, Ty Lue's starting him. He's just we're ramping him up for the playoffs. And now he goes back to 5 minutes in a game like this? Are you kidding me? No, he got a donut in every category except for fouls. 1 foul, Nico Batum. Insane. And here's the thing. It's not a Brian Shaw, Ty Lue thing, because with Ty Lue, he was starting to get the minutes ramp up. Ty Lue was there against Detroit. Ty Lue was there against New York. Ty Lue was there in the game we made the game winner. Ty Lue was in New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? If anything, if actually he's gotten less minutes with Shaw, 12, 17, and 15 the last 3 games. I think it's a medical staff thing or something. I don't know what this plan is for Nico, but it's hurting our team. But so my point is this. You can criticize Ty Lue for last night, but it's all because of that. Ty Lue's back and now we lose. Nonsense conversation, in my opinion. And I'm always going to say that. It's the same thing as Luke Walton took the Warriors to a 40-1. I'm not trying to dismiss Brian Shaw and Luke Walton completely, but this is Ty Lue's system. This is Steve Kerr's system. They're going off of them. They still get consulted. They still ran training camp. They still implemented their sets, their playbook, their coaching staff. I mean, come on. But coming up, going to be talking about Kawhi Watch. How did he look? All right, talking about this one, Clippers losing it 103-101. A very winnable game. Clippers shot 43% from the field. The Thunder shot 40% from the field. So real slugfest. We shot 31% from three. So our shooting just cooled down, and that's part of it. Now, of course, the OKC defense does have a lot to do with that. But we were bound for a game where we weren't just spraying from three because we weren't a great three-point shooting team pre-trade deadline. I think Bogey's going to really help that. And, of course, having Kawhi back and hitting helps that. And, of course, James Harden knocking down his shot the way he has in the month of March really helps as well. But I don't think we're a great three-point shooting team. So we were bound to have a game where we regressed. We shot 31% from there. They shot 34% from there. We shot 82% from the free throw line. They shot 85%. We ended up shooting 8 more free throws than them in the end. So, people were using that as the reasoning of why Clipper fans shouldn't complain about anything officiating related. And, of course, when you're at the game and you're in a section like the wall, the swell, which sounded great last night, by the way. Another sellout. It's been 7 straight. So the Clippers Intuit Dome thing, it's all about Kawhi. I'm telling you, he sells tickets, but also people seeing that, Clippers going to probably be in the playoffs or at least the play-in. We're good. The Intuit Dome's great. Starting to figure out their ways around it. Although I want to say I used Parkways last night and still had to pay $50 for parking because there was the CONCACAF Nations League final at SoFi, Mexico and Panama. And you know how I guess if Mexico has if Mexico has a cup final anywhere, let alone LA, how it's going to get. So it took me so long to get out of the Cosm lot, the parking structure across from Intuit Dome, the Hollywood Park lot, which is a great one to use on Parkways and during normal games. But last night was mayhem. Had to pay $50. But anyway, yeah, we lost 103-101. Kawhi Leonard, though, continues to trend in the right direction, which is awesome to see. The fact that he was just bullying Lou Dort like that and making him look like just some average defender, that's what we want to see. I kept saying, Kawhi Leonard at his best is nobody in the league can stop me one-on-one type. No one in the league, not even the best defenders. Slowly but surely, we're starting to get there. 25 points, 10 rebounds in this game, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, getting to that mid-range. It's just his decision-making can be a little slow, and I don't love him initiating the offense. That's the only thing. But his defense is still trending in the right direction, although he got beat a couple times backdoor. But his mid-range, it's starting to look good. It's starting to look like those plays where I'm just in awe, like, wow, I love the mid-range killers like Kawhi. But there was one moment in that third quarter he had that block and then ended up resulting in a Kawhi layup on the other end to make it 68-70, led to a timeout. That was, you're really starting to see those moments from Kawhi. So we're really trending in the right direction there. But yeah, Zoo, I don't know. It wasn't his best game for me. He could have done a better job rebounding. Isaiah Hartenstein's a very good player. He was giving him a tough time. Isaiah Hartenstein, let's see what he finished with. 14 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, 3 turnovers. So he had a third of their turnovers on 6 for 12 shooting. Great battle there with the centers. Chris Dunn played only 19 minutes, so it looks like he's not going to be eligible for all defense, unfortunately. 7 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, no turnovers on 3 for 5 shooting and 1 for 1 from 3. I truly don't understand why he wasn't playing more. He was shooting 60% from the field and 100% from 3. And he was doing a good job on SGA. So was Derrick Jones Jr., by the way, who had 9 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 blocks, no turnovers on 2 for 5 shooting and 2 for 4 from 3. Played 26 minutes. I was surprised when Derrick Jones Jr. in the beginning of that fourth quarter, I saw him asking, who do I go in for? And I don't remember who was coming in, but I saw whoever it was asking Ty Lue, who should I go in for? And Ty pointed to DJ. And I was like, what? And left Amir Coffey in. And Amir Coffey wasn't necessarily horrible, but he got beat backdoor several times. His off-ball defense is poor. We've talked about that. 9 points, 1 rebound, 1 steal on 3 for 5 shooting, 0 for 2 from 3, 3 for 4 from the foul line. So he was actually tied for our leading scorer off the bench, but we got 28 points off the bench. They got 31 between Jalen Williams and Aaron Wiggins alone. Aaron Wiggins had 19 points in this game on 8 for 17 shooting and 3 for 8 from 3. I didn't even realize he shot 17 times. That's crazy. But total next man up effort for the Thunder. They had 6 guys in double figures. Clippers only had 3 guys in double figures because Norman Powell didn't even get there. So Kawhi, he played 40 minutes That's something to acknowledge. He played 40 minutes, so he's really trending in the right direction. But I'm just afraid about like ending games. I still feel like Kawhi struggles to get a clean look at the end of games. We don't have Paul George anymore, who I used to say was the last shot guy. I know Kawhi made a game winner just less than 2 weeks ago, but still makes me a little nervous. But we had our chances, you know. It was a number of mistakes. Ty Lue burning that last time out. Why was Nico not playing? I'm really not aware. James Harden getting banged up. I really, honestly, can't put this on Kawhi. I know he missed that shot, but I really can't put it on Kawhi this game. I feel like he did well. He did well. He could have done better in that second quarter stretch. If I want to, say he could have done better somewhere. But Norm, we really needed him to make shots. We really needed him to make shots. And Zoo didn't do a good enough job rebounding, in my opinion. So it's fine margins against a team like that. They're a very good team. They do such a great job of loading up and helping and rotating. I mean, they're a fantastic defensive team and just a fantastic team in general. And it stings, of course. But yeah. So hopefully James Harden is not going to be out for too long. He's going to definitely miss a game. But then it becomes, we need to get James Harden back to scratch. And it's just the classic Clipper thing. It's just the classic, whenever something's going well, or we're starting to get guys back, a new injury occurs. And it's tough. It's really tough. So I hope he's fine. Ben Simmons had a good game, 8.7 rebounds, 4 of 5 shooting. He just needs to continue to look at the basket and take that floater. That floater is looking pretty good, so keep embracing it because everyone's going to sag off and give him space. But yeah, I think Ben Simmons was probably our best bench player in this one. Derrick Jones Jr. not too far behind, but needed more from Zoo, Norm, better from Harden down the stretch. The turnovers late in games against good teams definitely make me nervous. But it is what it is. It's one game. We're now 40-31. It was a golden opportunity missed, though, I will say. 25-11 at home. 5 more home games left. You can check out a vlog of my of the game. And great atmosphere. Talked to some fans throughout the game. Asked them about how they feel about SGA and this Thunder team, given, we built it, whatever, and how they're feeling lately. So go check that out on my channel, Dime Dropper. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper. And, of course, Locked On Clippers. I'm trying to get to 7,000 subscribers before the playoffs. And, again, we're going to be in them, guys. If you want to do a little quick standings watch, you can do that right now. With that loss and 11 games left, we are now in the 8th seed. God, half a game behind the Wolves. That 8th seed is dangerous. Because if Phoenix beats Sacramento and we lose to Minnesota and we have one game at Intuit Dome against the Suns and lose, that would be absolute misery. We need to get that 7th seed. We really do, or that 6th seed. We're still only one game behind the Warriors in this loss column. Next game for us is a big one at Madison Square Garden on Wednesday. Yikes, that is going to be tough. But they don't have Jalen Brunson, so sheesh. I am hoping that we can get it done. No Jalen Brunson, and we'll see about Mitchell Robinson. He's a game-time decision. But without Jalen Brunson, I think we should get it done. It's going to be tough, but we need it. But we'll talk more about that on Tuesday. You make sure to sign up for the Locked On Clippers newsletter at lockedondaily.com. We'll be back, Clipper Nation. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.